my guy. I'm happy to have you here, get a chance to talk to you about your program, about kind of your coaching philosophy, things that you've done, and a little bit about your why. So if you want to take me back, how did you become the head coach here at Saguaro High School in Arizona?
Yeah, got off the field after playing junior college baseball and knew couldn't walk away from it. So kind of always felt one of those innate abilities to be a leader on the field. And so coaching kind of felt second nature. I felt like I was always motivating through actions as much as words. And I had an opportunity to present itself actually here at Saguaro with the previous head coach. And he said, "Would you like to be a bench coach and first base coach?" And I said, "Absolutely." And that kind of opened the door, kind of led into the club realm. And one thing led to another, and put in about 8 years worth of assistant coaching, various things from camps and clinics all over to just getting an opportunity to coach 3 or 4 club teams in the area. And when you kind of put it all together, an opportunity presented itself at the very school that we're still at. And so now when I look back on the last 13 years, it's like, holy cow. But going into the 6th year as head coach, it's been really exciting to be able to kind of look back and see the progression, the changes, because this game continues to change with technology and things that we know. So looking back on what I taught about a decade ago versus what I'm teaching now, and the practices of it, I love the evolution of it. I love being in the classroom, and this is just an extension of the classroom. It's actually the most enjoyable classroom. And so when you put your sanctuary with what you love, it doesn't feel like a job. So you can't leave this field, and it's been one of those things that I just felt my calling, was to be around a baseball field and be around these guys.
Absolutely, and I've known you since you really got into the school and into coaching, and I've watched the whole progression before my eyes. And you said about the classroom before, and you have had guys drafted out of this program, plenty of guys drafted, I know that, but talk a little bit about the guys that went on to play in college and what that process has been like, and kind of just how things work around your program and around the state.
So, and that's one of the things that really taking this job as a head coach and kind of recognizing where we had to close the gap, it was in college preparation, because I think that's probably the biggest thing is it really becomes more of a job at the college level. You love it, but you're putting in the weight room before school, you're hitting the books, you're putting in practice time after school, and you got to be ready to do that again the next day. And so as much as we can prepare guys with as much as we can do within the confines of our program, being a public school, and doing some morning lifts and some mile runs and things like that, that truly ultimately have guys, when they go to college, shoot me a text and say thank you for preparing me. That's the goosebump moment, because you push them pretty hard, but to truly have a kid walk into a program and feel like he is prepared is really the goal, because there's so much happening for that transition into independent lifestyle. And so if the lifestyle that you've created at the high school level has prepared you for college, you're going to hopefully be more successful in that opportunity.
Absolutely. Now, I know with a lot of teams you have team mottos or team philosophies, whether it's program-wide and ongoing or just for this year. What's kind of your guys' motto or the catchphrase that you guys go with?
Yeah, so the one that's kind of stuck since I started here, and we do change a little slogan every year, but the one that's stuck is men of character. When you walk into our program, we preach character. So much of what we want to do is we say we're an athlete. Well, we don't stand on a baseball as foundation. Unfortunately, that's our 2 feet on the ground. That is what we stand on, and baseball is an extension of that. So character is what you do when nobody's watching. Character is what you do when you're a brother, a son, a boyfriend, a husband, hopefully, for some of these kids as they grow. And truly, character is what defines you as a student athlete. And so I felt that was the one core value that truly encompassed everything that I think this game gives you an opportunity to do, is be a man of character. And whether that's volunteering in the community or even just saying yes sir to an umpire, those little things tend to be what carries you as a man who grows into this world. And so men of character is kind of what we have as our staple. we've kind of stolen some catchphrases here or there. We like the win the day from the Oregons and you know, we over me's and things of that nature, which are definitely all very important. But when it comes back down to it, and somebody says, what's the world baseball, men of character is really what I like to pride ourselves.
Absolutely. That's just not, like you said, it's not just about baseball. That has a bigger picture, a lot bigger influence. And you know, when you talk to college coaches or when you talk to people in this community and you bring that part up, how big of an impact do you think that has in relaying that message to, and we'll say just in this case, into a college coach when they're going through that recruiting process?
No, it's one of those things that I think their ears perk up. They know they're going to get a quality individual. And I think as a coach, if you're recruiting a kid or you've seen a kid play, you have a pretty good idea of the ability.
Sure.
Or if you see his stats. When you get to hear kind of what the character drive is all about, the volunteer hours, the classroom conduct, the respect that they carry themselves with as an expectation, they know that they're getting the individual that they're not going to have to worry about being somebody who's going to derail their expectations of their program. And coaches have tended to gravitate towards that or make that phone call to say, hey, do you have anybody, because they know the character of the individual they're getting from our program.
Sure. Yeah, it makes it a lot easier as a college coach when you don't have to worry if they're going to the classroom and showing up and doing those things. How about this season? You know, obviously it's just kind of kicking off here. I guess Arizona baseball really never shuts down, but you know, getting towards regular season, what are your expectations, or what do you think about this club that you have?
This club is going to be one of my most exciting, to be honest with you. We've had some talented groups in here, but what's interesting is these guys out in Arizona have played so much baseball. It almost feels like it gets a little watered down, to be honest with you. It's like, okay, it's just another game. This particular group takes a lot of pride in not only winning, but the actual execution. So this is actually a group that you ask them to show up for weights, they're going to be there until coach says it's over. You ask them to open field, and they're all going to show up and be out here working. And you mix a little combination of talent with the grit, and it's one of those that this is that perfect combination, I think, of a group that I'm excited about. Every year our expectation is playoffs and state championships, right? But 45 teams in our division section, and 44 of them are going to be disappointed at the end of the year.
Right.
So we definitely have a high expectation of where we want to be as a program, and you make goals. You set goals, but within that confines, we talk about process, and that's our goal in more of this process. And so with this particular group, they bought into the process of putting the time in and seeing the return hopefully come based on their work towards that process.
It's funny thinking about that, because here we're talking about high school baseball, right? But when you take those adjectives that you just used to describe this group, the same could be said about the Florida team that won the CWS last year, or Houston that won the Major League World Series. So I think that defines any really good team. So to have that here, it has to be super exciting. Let's talk a little bit about just you personally. Who were your biggest influences in the game growing up, and you know, how did you get involved in baseball to begin with?
So from Little League on, and kind of being in Arizona, it was one of those games that you picked up a bat and a ball, and I just loved playing catch. So my dad obviously kind of got me started playing catch in the backyard, and that's probably something that's faded a little bit, unfortunately, is just playing catch sometimes, or wiffle ball, right? Like you got everybody's in the cul-de-sac and you go throw it around, and you don't see that as much, which is unfortunate, but I do see kids playing more baseball, and so now you have to start worrying about arm care and things like this. But for me personally, this game, I learned early on that you're going to fail. My dad pushed very hard, which I probably pushed back a lot of the time, like any growing young kid would do. But looking back on it, those pushes through failure, the way this game gives you failure, it treats you about life. And life will throw you curveballs, and you know, it's going to punch you out looking sometimes, and you preparing for the next at-bat and learning from it was something I just gravitated towards. More so than soccer or football and some of the other sports I played, this was mentally challenging, which I enjoyed that level of it. And I think that's really what got me wanting to coach, is because I felt like I had a unique understanding of that. My personal coaching influences, there's a couple. Tom Succo over at Brophy, when I played for him coming in my freshman year, was very quiet, and he showed me the opposite of what my dad was, which was loud. And I could say my dad on a baseball field was a coach, but he didn't know the game. He just was a motivator.
Sure.
So his motivation Tom Suko's quietness, and then starting to branch off. Ed Yeager at SCC for a long time, was now at Chandler Gilbert, but did some camps with him, and he was a big influence on me. And you kind of look back at some of these growing scenarios. Ray Alonso up at Apollo, guys that you played for as a player
Sure.
at camps, and then you get to coach with them.
Yep.
And what a different perspective as you get to be enlightened into their realm, and just being on the other side of the fence. Keeping those guys around in contacts and them seeing me grow, it's all kind of fed a beautiful community, which is the baseball network, right?
It's unbelievable.
And that's where it gets kind of
I'm
fun.
sure a lot of funny stories.
Oh, they start flowing. For
Yeah,
sure.
I said, coming out of the coaching convention last weekend, one thing I talked about, it was really interesting how you identify your relationship with somebody in one way, but they remember something totally different.
Absolutely.
So it makes you, kind of puts it in perspective and makes you realize that, different people value different things and recall different things, and in some cases kind of make up certain things
Right,
too.
right, absolutely.
So, yeah, how about that? Any funny baseball stories you have to share with us?
I mean, I can still remember, my dad throwing me batting practice in the backyard. It's sun's going down, can't barely see because there's no lights, and he squares me up in the back with a very average fastball. But I just remember him getting mad at me because I told him I couldn't see and wanted to go in, and he says those are excuses. We're staying here until you finish on a good swing.
That's why
It's like
lights out there.
But those are the feel good memories, because you go, that's those are the things that say, there's a method to the madness of kind of pushing and understanding that you got to mentally feel good, and you might not feel good, but understanding what that is, and taking ground balls off of concrete. I mean, these kids get to play on beautifully cush fields
Fields remarkable.
and gorgeous facilities all over the state of Arizona, from Papago to Peoria to out in the East Valley. These guys we have a very good out here in Arizona, and I can't say that it was always this good. It's definitely come a long ways, much like a lot of the baseball across the country has. But there was definitely a lot of good memories out of the some practice parking lot type stuff.
Hilarious stuff. That's not my phone. It's another coach's phone.
Very good.
One last question, then we'll cut you loose. I know you got to get these guys out of practice, but kind of open-ended one here. But how would you define success?
Ooh, yeah, this is that's kind of the $1 million question, right? And kind of what you were just talking about, and is, I think, to success to the individual is in the eye of the beholder, right? So we talk. What I love about being a teacher on campus is we do Friday Focus, and that's really become more of a mental day. And that mental day is
And that's just for baseball. That's for everybody.
just for baseball class, the guys who are have it as an elective. But that Friday Focus, when we're not in the field or the weight room, especially in the fall, is really just more about the mental side of life, and what is the definition of success. So to your question, some people it could be wanting to be a good dad and be a family man, and not valued in paychecks and dollar signs. To others, it might be just that. It might be the monetary values or the materials. For me personally, success is being a role model, to be perfectly honest with you. I remember my mom, I have 2 younger siblings and an older sibling, and I said, I don't want to be a role model. And she said, well, you don't really have a choice. So this is kind of who you are in our family, of a line of family, and I think back to that vividly, because now what I do is I'm a role model for not just these 60 kids, 80 kids, the club stuff, and all these families that you take a lot of self-interest in their success, because they are going to fail, they are going to struggle, they're going to have some things that are out of their control. For me, success for these guys is feeling like they are better men for having come through our program. As a coach, that's my success. My personal success is obviously being the best husband and father that I'm soon to be, that I can for my own family. But continuing to keep family close has always been my driving success, is knowing that that's giving back to those who have done the most for me and given me opportunities.
It's amazing, yeah. Joe, what I can tell you is that it's been a lot of fun watching you grow, your program grow. I love watching from afar, but I love even more getting to see the manifestation of it on the field here. And one thing I'll leave you with is, I know, like you just said, you're about to be a father here, and the day I became a father, I became a better coach too. because it really puts a lot more in perspective. You're a little bit more empathetic. You understand the entirety of it a little bit more. So it's amazing what you've done to this point, and I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Well, it's a privilege to be here with you and seeing the same path, man, of